I will call two Randall County related final hearings. In case Ms. Wiggins is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram's with us representing the children. Ms. Kincaid is with us representing the father, Mr. Ochoa, who is with us. Ms. Grant is with us representing the mother, Miss Little, who is with us. I will also call Randall County case cause number 83, also here on a final hearing. Again, Ms. Wiggins for the department, Mr. Ingram representing the children. Mr. Jackson is with us representing the mother, Ms. Garza, who is with us. And again, Ms. Kincaid with us representing the father, Mr. Ochoa, who is with us. That accounts for all the parties in both cases. All right, then, Ms. Wiggins, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. I call Ashley Delgado. And
Okay.
did you begin an investigation on approximately May 2nd of 2023?
Yes.
And was that regarding the children Aurora, Draco, and Aviana?
Yes.
And what were the allegations in the intake?
We got a neglectful supervision case due to concerns of domestic violence in the home between Scarlett Little and her boyfriend, Mark Soria Ochoa.
And what did you first do to investigate that?
We approached the home because there was we did get notification of a child death in that home, and so we went to the family to interview everybody, kind of figure out what was going on, and that occurred on I believe it was almost the same day that we actually went out there. Yes, it was actually May 3rd that we actually ended up going out there to interview the family.
Okay. And during the course of that interview, what were the demeanor like with the parents?
Originally, the family was very combative, especially Mr. Soria Ochoa. Typically, in cases where there is a child death, we have all the other surviving children forensically interviewed, and we tried explaining that to them, but they were, especially Mr. Soria Ochoa, was very combative.
Okay. Did they finally agree for Aurora to be forensically interviewed?
Yes, Miss Little was a little reluctant, but she did agree for at least a forensic interview because the other child, Aurora, was not in the home, and those were my two verbal children at the time.
Let me interrupt for the record. I may have announced Miss Grant was with us before. She was not, but she has now joined us. She represents Miss Little. Sorry, Miss Wiggins.
Apologies, Jess. I was here. I got kicked off when I tried to do video, so I was rejoining.
Okay, go ahead, Miss Wiggins.
Thank you, Judge. So was Aurora?
Yes.
And did she make any outcries?
Yes.
What did she state?
She made outcries of domestic violence between Mr. Soria Ochoa and her mom, Scarlett Little.
Now, in regards to your investigation, what were your attempts to kind of avoid removal at that point?
I spent hours at the home trying to keep the family intact, both parents, including the children in the home, because of what had happened with their late child, and try to get somebody to come and supervise them to ensure that there was no further fighting. But we were not able to do that. So with hesitation, Mr. Soria Ochoa did agree to leave the home to prevent any further issues. Scarlett was left unattended with the children, which at the time was fine. When we did drug screens, both parents were positive for cocaine. At that time, I tried to find some type of supervisory party for mom, since she was left unattended with the children without any success whatsoever. And so there was really nowhere else I could even place the children. So we decided to remove the children.
Okay. And Judge, I would like to offer petitioners exhibit 1 and 2, yes, 1 and 2. One is Mark Soria Ochoa's drug screen from the May 6, 2023.
All right, objections? All right, petitioners 1 is admitted.
And then petitioner exhibit 2 is from Draco screen, the child after removal. It was collected May 20th of 2023.
Objections? All right, petitioners 2 is admitted.
Now, regarding your case, Ms. Delgado, after the children were removed, did you have additional contact with the family?
I did. Are you talking about parents or children, or both?
I guess, but I'll be more specific. I'm sorry. So I did just enter Draco's drug screen. So what was the decision like on getting a drug screen for Draco?
There, because mom and dad were positive for drugs, that's why we decided to do the drug screen on Draco. Also, when we got him taken in for his 3-day exam, there were some serious concerns about how Draco had been treated because he, excuse me, he had a flat head based on, excuse me, based on the doctor's assessment of the child, that she felt that he was severely mistreated, which led to lab work, chest x-rays, urine tox screens, and full body skeletal.
And during that time was also Aurora interviewed as well at the bridge.
Yes. We had Miss Aurora interviewed on May 24th.
And did she outcry about any abuse or neglect?
Yes.
What did she state?
She talked about her parents fighting, and she had mentioned something about her dad getting very angry and bringing. Apparently, she was mom was also banging a vacuum on dad. So It was a very strange interview, but she did talk about violence between both her parents.
Okay, and just to clarify, was she talking about her biological mother or Miss Little?
Miss Little.
And then during that time, were you able to make contact with Miss Garza, the biological mother of? Sorry, Ariana. Judge, it's going to be a kind of confusing name.
It is.
So Ariana, Miss Garza, is the mother of Aurora.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you. But in the home with the children at the time of removal were Mark Soria Ochoa and Scarlett Little.
Yes.
And who is the father of Aurora?
Shiloh Massey.
And can you spell Shiloh?
Chyloe.
And where did you locate him?
He was incarcerated at the time.
And so based on the drug screens that returned and the domestic violence outcry of the children and the inability to find supervising parties, the department decided to remove the children. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Grant.
Ma'am, when you interviewed Scarlett Little, was she cooperative with your investigation?
Yes. Yes, she was.
And has she been cooperative with you during your involvement in the case?
Yes.
Thank you. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Kincaid.
Thank you, Your Honor. Whenever you interviewed the family, they had just recently lost a child. Is that correct?
Yes, they did. Okay.
And whenever that happens, we can expect that people are going to react to grief differently. Is that fair to say?
Yes, definitely.
And on top of losing a child, CPS investigator coming to the home would probably, add to that frustration or that grief. Would that be fair to say?
Of course.
And so it's understandable that someone may not react well to a CPS investigation after the loss of a child.
Agreed.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, during the time of this investigation, when these allegations came out about abuse and neglect, it's my understanding that Ariana Garza had no part in that. Is that correct?
My understanding is she was with a relative at the time.
Okay. Was that with a relative here or where she's currently located?
Ariana Garza, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Aurora, because Aurora went back and forth between her and her grandfather. Ariana Garza is...
Hasn't she been located in San Antonio throughout this case?
Yes. I'm so sorry. With all the A's, I kind of get a little mixed up. She was living in San Antonio. She had no involvement with any of this going on here in Amarillo.
Okay. And did you have an opportunity to speak with her?
I did.
Okay. And was she cooperative?
Very.
Okay. All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
All right. Does anybody else have follow-ups for Ms. Delgado?
I do not, Judge.
All right. Can she be excused or does she stay?
I have no objection.
No
No
objection.
objection.
All right. Ms. Delgado, I'll remove you so you can go about your day's business. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Judge, at this time, I'd like to offer a couple more exhibits for the court.
Okay. Right.
I'd like to offer Petitioner Exhibit 3. It's a certified copy of the indictment against Mark Soria Ochoa in cause 33082-C. It's 2 counts of abandoning and endangering a child. And then I'd like to offer petitioners 4 and 5. They are counts 1 and counts 2, the judgments in both of those cases. They just do separate judgments here in Randall County for each count, both on cause number 33082-C.
And that's against Mr. Ochoa?
Yes, Judge. Those are the judgments for the previous indictment.
Okay. All right. Objections?
No objection.
All right. Petitioners 4 and 5 are admitted.
And then I would like to offer a certified copy of the status hearing order. And then the petitioner exhibit 7, certified copy of the status hearing order for
Petitioner 7 is admitted.
And then finally, petitioner exhibit 8. It is a business records affidavit for Mark Soria Ochoa drug screen completed on April 10th of 2024.
All right. Petitioners 8 is admitted.
And I would call Silvestri Perez. Mr. Perez, how are you currently employed?
I am currently a certified clinical medical assistant there at BSA Care Express, specifically the location there at Ross and Osage.
Okay. And as part of your employment, do you collect drug screen samples from individuals?
I do, ma'am.
And were you working on April 10th of 2024?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
And did you complete or attempt to complete a urinalysis drug screen for a Mark Soria Ochoa?
I did, ma'am.
And during that collection, can you briefly describe just in general what you do with a collection regarding a urine sample?
Yes, ma'am. So in regards to DOT testing and or just urine sample testing in general, we'll go up to the front, we'll speak to the patient, bring them back into these rooms designed, for this complete process. They'll empty out their pockets. If they're wearing hoodies or jackets or anything like that, a second layer, over their primary layer, they'll take that off just in case they're hiding anything in their jackets or anything of the nature. We'll then put them we'll allow them to go to the restroom with a cup that we've shown on our side, and their side is clean, doesn't have anything that was sealed. And then they need to at least get it to a certain amount. That amount is 45 mLs, so 45 milliliters. And once we have that, we then pour it off, dependent on the specifics of the test, into 2 split containers or a single container, ma'am.
Okay. And is there anything that the sample has to check off before you accept it as a valid sample?
Yes, ma'am. Specifically temperature. It has to be a range of 90 degrees Fahrenheit to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Anything within that range is considered, okay for us to be able to send off or accept. This stops people from bringing in used urine or urine from someone else because it would be cold by the time that they got it back there.
Okay. And in regards to the sample from Mr. Soria Ochoa, did you follow all of the guidelines that you just described?
Yes, ma'am.
And in regards to the sample that you received from him, did you check the temperature on that?
Yes, ma'am. It was below 90 degrees.
And based on that, did you refuse to accept the sample?
Yes, ma'am. So the process of refusal there is to then pour it out and, deem it. It was QNS, which QNS, quantity not sufficient. It wasn't enough urine to begin with. But then in addition to that, it wasn't, it didn't reach temperature. And so the process would then have the patient attempt another time. We give them a little bit of time there in the lobby. It takes a while for them to feel comfortable again, to go to the restroom. And so, yes, ma'am.
And so at this time, did you follow that procedure and ask Mr. Soria Ochoa if he would like to attempt again?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And what did he state in return?
He said something along the lines that he didn't really care too much because he knew it would come back dirty.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Thank you. Mrs. Grant?
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Kincaid?
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Jackson?
No questions.
Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
All right. Anything further of Mr. Perez?
No, Your Honor, if he'll be released.
Okay. All right, Mr. Perez, thank you for your testimony. I'll remove you so you can go about your afternoon's business.
I'd call Tamara Martinez.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Martinez, how are you currently employed?
I'm a permanency specialist with St. Francis Ministries.
And I just want to take the kiddos. Let's just try to do this one at a time if we can to begin with. I know Aurora mentioned, and she's in a separate case. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that case is set for a jury trial. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. And then the next case we have that I'm going to talk about is Aurora. Where is she currently placed?
She is currently placed with her mother, Ariana Garza.
And where is that placement?
In San Antonio.
And how long has Aurora been placed with her mother?
She has been placed there since March 11th, so 7 weeks, I believe it is.
And how is the child doing in that placement?
She's doing great. She's very happy to be there.
And before she was placed there, was she placed with her siblings here in a placement, a foster placement?
Yes, she was.
And let's see, and regarding the child, is she currently in school?
Yes, she is.
And is the mother able to follow up with all of her care?
Yes, she is.
And is she current on all her medical, dental, and psychological needs?
Yes.
Is she seeing a psychologist there in San Antonio?
Not a psychologist. She's seen a therapist.
A therapist, okay. And do you know how those appointments are going in general?
She's still attending with the same therapist that she was, and it's my understanding that she's doing good.
Okay, and so that same therapist was able to help her transition back to the mother's home?
Yes.
And in regards to Ms. Garza, did she complete all of the services requested by the department?
Yes, she did.
And just regarding her history, she did have some drug abuse history that she had to get treatment for. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And was she successful in maintaining her sobriety after that?
Yes.
And in regards to that child, do you believe it's in her best interest to be placed with the mother?
Yes, I do.
Now, regarding the father, Mark Soria Ochoa, is that correct?
That is.
And let's talk a little bit about his services. We did enter the status hearing order for both cases attached with his service plan on it. So I would like to go through each of his services and talk about what he's completed. And just to verify, were his service plans the same in the Soria case as they were for the other two children in the Soria Ochoa case?
Yes.
So if we talk about services for one, we're talking about both cases as well.
Yes.
All right. And so did Mr. Soria Ochoa maintain consistent contact with the department?
No, he has not. It's been very sporadic.
Okay. Can you kind of describe how that's been?
I'll message him one day, and sometimes I hear back from him in a day or two. Other times it's 2 or 3 days, or not at all. And then here recently, he's changed his phone number a couple of times. I'm not sure why it's been changed. I've had 2 new numbers for him just in this month.
And has he communicated a change in those numbers to you?
He does eventually. I don't know how long he has the phone number before he tells me.
And in regards to his living situation, do you know where he's living?
He reports to be living with, I believe, his grandparents.
Have you been able to go to that residence to confirm that?
I've been a couple of times and nobody answered the door.
So you haven't been able to confirm that he actually is living there by visual inspection of the property?
No, ma'am.
Now, in regards to his transportation, does he have transportation?
The last time I talked to him, he did not have transportation.
And in regards to employment, has he maintained stable employment?
As of the last time I talked to him, he was, sorry, I'm trying to remember. He's reported at one point he was not employed. I don't know if that has since changed.
Okay, if your report says on April 10th, he reported he's working at Little Caesars, would that be a fair statement?
Oh, yes, sorry. I was trying to find that.
Okay, and but previous to that, he had left his employment at Buffalo Wild Wings in February. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Now, in regards to visitation with the children, can you kind of explain how his visitation has changed over the course of the case?
It's my understanding that at the beginning of the case, visitation was not allowed due to bond restrictions. We resumed visitation through therapeutic recommendations. He attended just a couple of those. I think he attended 3 or probably about 3 or 4. He would confirm he was coming and then he wouldn't show up. At the last court hearing, it was decided that he needed to provide a clean drug screen for visitation. At that time, he did not go drug screen. and therefore his visitation had been stopped.
Okay. And let's go and talk about his drug screens at this time. The one you were referring to was that March 4th of 2024 when we had the court hearing where he was ordered to screen?
Yes, ma'am.
And he did not go to that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then on April 10th of 2024, he did go drug screen and the results are entered. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And on the hair follicle, he was positive for marijuana and cocaine.
Yes.
Now, previous to that, it appears that he had not drug screened for the department since December was his last drug screen before then. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And let's see, in regards to hair strand, there was a one clean hair strand October of 23. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
All the other hairs have either been presumed positive or positive. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in regards to his other services, let's see. He completed a parenting class, is that correct?
Yes.
But that was back in October of 2023, is that correct?
Yes.
He did an OSAR evaluation again in October of 2023, is that correct?
Yes.
Or I'm sorry, as of sure I understand. Sorry, my watch didn't understand. I apologize. I misread your report. So August of 2023 is when he took the OSAR.
Yes, that's correct.
And what was he ordered to do for that OSAR?
It was recommended that he be referred to Synacor for drug classes.
Okay. And let's see, it looks like that Synacor fell through. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Was he referred to a different service then?
Then he was referred to Padre.
And did he complete that program?
He did not complete the program.
Again, in October of 2023, did he complete 6 counseling sessions?
Yes.
And then in regards to his BIP program, he was ordered to do the BIP program. Is that right?
Yes.
Has he completed that program?
I have not received word yet that he's completed it. The lady is out of the office currently. But if he was still attending, he should have completed it.
Okay. And so you were only able to verify as of April 10th of 2024, and he had done 14 out of 18.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was also ordered to complete the rational behavior therapy class. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he do that?
No, he has not.
Now, it appears that his drug screens have not been shown to be, sorry, scratch up. Do you believe based on his drug screens and his lack of completion of the services that he's able to provide the children with a safe environment?
No.
And do you believe, have he had significant contact with any of the children?
No.
And has that been due to his own either, I guess, behavior in regards to criminal cases and his inability to properly drug screen for the court?
Yes.
And do you believe that creating a service plan was a reasonable effort to reunify the children with him?
Yes, I do.
Now, in regards to their service plan, is it fair to say that he did not complete the service plan appropriately?
Yes.
Now, in regards to his being placement of the children, do you believe it would be in the children's best interest for his parental rights to be terminated?
Yes.
And let's be specific with the children. So Aurora is placed with her mother. Do you believe it would be in her best interest for Mr. Ochoa's rights to be terminated?
Yes.
And why do you believe that?
He's continued to use illegal substances. He has not demonstrated stability in housing or transportation. He's just not demonstrated the ability to care for her.
Okay. And would that be inability to provide for a safe environment for the child now and in the future?
Yes.
And is the child happy with being placed with her mother?
Yes, very.
And in regards to the child, she did originally, as we've heard testify, talk about witnessing domestic violence between Miss Little and Mr. Ochoa as well.
Yes.
Now, in regards to Miss Garza, do you believe it would be in Aurora's interest for Miss Garza to be named permanent managing conservator of the child?
Yes.
And do you believe it would be in the best interest for the department to be dismissed from that case?
Yes.
And are we asking the court to order that today?
Yes.
And do you believe that Ms. Garza has completed all of her services and has made the necessary behavioral changes to be able to appropriately care for Aurora?
Yes.
Now, regarding the two younger children, Dracos and Aviana, where are they currently placed?
They're currently placed in a foster home together.
And regarding the father, do you believe it would be in their best interest for his rights to be terminated to both of those children?
Yes.
And can you explain why that is?
He's continued to use illegal substances. He's had very little contact with the children. He doesn't understand Draco's medical needs and what Draco requires to have his needs met. And he's not demonstrated the ability to provide them with a safe and stable environment.
Now, in regards, you mentioned Draco needs. What are those medical needs?
He's currently feeding tube dependent. They are working with him on eating solid foods again, but he still struggles with choking, and so they'll work with him on like safe spit. Draco is just now getting to where he can set up, leaning up against something. He's very, very delayed in gross motor skills and fine motor skills.
And is he receiving ECI care?
Yes.
And in regards to the mother on that case, Miss Little, how is she progressing on her services?
She has done her services. At this time, we have her attending doctor's appointments and therapy appointments to better learn about what Draco's needs are. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Then her attending appointments has some of the appointments have been missed because Draco's been sick. Some of them have been missed for transportation issues.
Okay. And in regards to the mother, what is her visitation like?
She currently gets 1 hour a week.
Okay. And is she's also able to go to all of the doctor's visits if that's allowed, is that correct?
Yes.
And just to clarify, she has been providing negative drug screens for the department.
Yes.
And she did complete her Prodigy program, is that right?
Yes, she did.
And that was completed as of February, is that right? So she completed it in November.
Yes.
And then she's also continuing to have therapeutic visits with the children, is that right?
That recently changed. We were having supervision concerns with the therapist, and so we put a family support worker on it.
Okay, so that wasn't anything that Miss Little did.
No.
That was just a supervision.
Yeah, that was a St. Francis change.
Okay. And in regards to Miss Little, do we believe that it would be in the children's best interest for the case to be extended so that Miss Little can have additional time with the children to move forward with reunification with her?
Yes.
And do you believe that would be in the children's best interest?
Yes, I do.
Can I have one brief moment, Judge?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. Okay, I apologize, Judge. Excuse me. I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you, Ms. Grant.
Ms. Martinez, what services are outstanding for the mother, Scarlett Little, to complete?
At this time, she just needs to attend the appointments for Draco to learn about his needs. And she also, her car recently broke down, so she needs to work on getting reliable transportation. It seems that when she asks people to help transport her, they kind of bail on her at the last moment.
And so the transportation issues you mentioned a few minutes ago were on her side, not the foster parent's side, correct?
Correct. But we are offering her transportation through St. Francis to help her get to the appointments.
Okay. Do you have any objection to increasing her visitation from 1 hour a week so that she can have more hands-on contact with Draco?
No.
And who supervises her visitation?
We just changed it to a family support worker.
And so could you accommodate more visitation?
I would have to talk to the worker and see what her schedule is.
Would it benefit the child and the mother to have more visitation?
Yes.
Okay. And do you expect any other services to be needed that you'll be asking the court for today?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. And in regard to Mark Ochoa, if the mother has continued to try to block phone numbers from him, but they've continued to change, would that be consistent with your experience with Mr. Ochoa?
Yes, ma'am.
And so has she alleviated your concerns at this point that she has any living arrangements still associated with Mr. Ochoa?
I have not seen Mr. Ochoa there, so I mean, I guess they're alleviated to the point.
Okay, and you've been able to visit inside her home, correct?
Yes, I have.
And you see no signs of him living there?
Correct.
Okay, pass the witness, Judge.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kincaid?
Thank you, Your Honor. What services does Mr. Soria Ochoa have remaining?
He needs to, it's my understanding, I believe he'd have to restart the Padre class since he was discharged from Padre without completion. With the positive drug screens, since his OSAR eval, he would need another OSAR evaluation. He needs to do rational behavior training, and then if he's got any classes left with BIP, he'd have to finish those.
Okay, and RBT, that's a one-day class, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's something that could be achieved in a relatively short period of time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and his BIP may or may not be completed, but he's pretty close to done with that, is that correct?
Yes, that was my understanding the last time I talked with her.
Okay, and his counseling is completed?
Yes.
Okay, and so really it's down to basically the OSAR Padre and some clean hair follicle and UA, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, and so that's something that if he were granted more time, it would give him the opportunity to do that. Is that correct?
If he would, yeah, yes.
Okay. I'll pass witness.
All right. Ms. Martinez, you said he'd need to do a second OSAR because of his very recent positive drug test. Not only would he have to do the assessment, but he'd have to do any recommended treatment since the first drug treatment didn't work. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Martinez, I represent Ariana Garza, the mother of Aurora, and you've had an occasion or two to visit with Ariana. Is that correct?
Yes, I speak with her weekly.
Okay, and during some of your past visits in March or before, did she take the opportunity to show you some of the text that she had received from Mark Ochoa?
Yes, I received those. I received some text from her. I believe it was end of January, beginning of February, in regard to Mark.
Okay, and I guess really what I'm getting at is, was she receiving threatening texts from Mark Ochoa?
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Sustain.
No,
No, I'll sustain it. I don't think, excuse me. I'll sustain it. It's not hearsay. He's a party, but I don't think the proper predicate's been laid.
Okay. Ma'am, do you think that it would be in the best interest of Ariana Garza and Aurora to not have to disclose their information as far as their physical address and telephone contact information?
Yes.
Okay. And why do you believe that to be in their best interest?
From the reports from just talking to Ariana, she does report, that Mark calls her and harasses her and makes threats. And there's also I don't have much information on the past, but there's concerns about him taking Aurora from Ariana.
Okay. And you had testified that that Aurora had moved in with Ariana on March 11th of 2024, correct?
Yes, sir.
And prior to that exchange, or where the child was placed with her, was Aurora excited to go move in with her mom?
She was very excited to go move in with mom.
Okay. And has she thrived and done well ever since?
Yes, she has.
Do you have any concerns whatsoever about Aurora remaining in the home with her mother?
No, I do not.
Do you believe that the home that Aurora Garza is providing for, I'm sorry, the home that Ariana Garza is providing for Aurora is a safe environment?
Yes, I do.
And has Ariana Garza demonstrated an ability to care for Aurora in her home?
Yes, she has.
And I believe you testified earlier that it was your opinion that it was in the best interest of this child for Ariana Garza to be named permanent managing conservator of the child. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
If, for whatever reasons, that Mr. Ochoa's rights are not terminated, is there a certain amount of visitation that you're recommending?
No, not at this time. I don't believe I'd recommend visitation.
Okay. All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
All right. All right. Anyone have follow-up questions for Ms. Martinez?
No, Your Honor.
Just a few. Ms. Martinez, I know it had been discussed about visitation between Scarlett Little and the children. Obviously, if that family support worker doesn't have time for increased visitation, the department will still work out some way to get her more visitation. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that is.
Okay. Nothing further, Judge.
All right. Anyone else?
No, Your Honor.
All right.
Your Honor, follow up.
All right. Go ahead.
Ms. Martinez, will you be, if Mr. Ochoa is not terminated, are you asking for child support to the mothers of the children?
Yes, if he's not terminated.
Pass the witness, Judge.
Anyone else? All right. Ms. Martinez is concerning the father, Mr. Ochoa. I think you answered this for Ms. Wiggins, but the department creating a service plan for him to work, was that a reasonable effort to return the children to him?
Yes, sir.
And you've testified, I guess, partially because he just did not show up and partially because finally his visits were stopped because of the drug testing issue. Has he not regularly visited or maintained significant contact with these children?
That would be correct. He has not.
Would you say then that he's demonstrated an inability to provide the children with a safe environment?
Yes, sir.
For sure, because of his recent positive drug test for cocaine, correct?
Yes.
And have all these kiddos been in the care of the Department of St. Francis for at least 6 months?
Yes, they have.
All right. Okay. Thank you. All right, then, Ms. Wiggins, do you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, we rest.
Okay. Ms. Grant, witnesses.
I call Scarlett Little, Your Honor.
Ms. Grant?
Ms. Little, have you completed all services in this case that have been asked of you?
Yes.
Have you consistently provided clean drug screens for the department upon request?
Yes.
And have those drug screens been negative?
Yes.
And have you changed employment during the course of this case?
No.
And you and Mr. Soria Ochoa used to work at the same place, is that true?
Yes.
And you no longer work at the same location or same employer?
Correct.
During the course of this case, has Mr. Soria Ochoa made it difficult for you to remain out of contact with him?
Yes. Back in.
Specifically, whenever you block a number from him, he obtains another number through a service provider and continues to harass you. Is that true?
Yes, before I changed my number myself.
Okay. And you have since been able to cut off all contact by changing your own phone number, true?
Yes.
Would you be requesting through this case that your address, phone number, and identifying information be excluded from documents or publication?
Yes.
And would that assist you if Mr. Ochoa is terminated in keeping yourself and the children safe upon return to you?
Yes.
Do you understand today that the department is requesting an extension in your case to allow you to complete going to doctor's appointments with the child Draco.
Yes.
And you're asking for more contact today, and the department's agreeing to provide more contact to achieve that, true?
Yes.
Is there anything that you're asking the judge to order for you today other than additional contact with your children and eventual return to you?
No, I don't believe so.
Do you object to an extension to this case to allow the department to assist you in completing that task?
No.
Pass the witness, Judge.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wiggins?
I have no questions.
Ms. Kincaid?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Jackson?
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
All right, anything further of Ms. Little?
Nothing further, Judge. The mother rests.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kincaid, any witnesses?
I call Mr. Soria Ochoa.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, if you would, let me ask you first, do you have, let me see. Oh, there you are. Okay, I can see it. Sir, if you take your hoodie off to begin with, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kincaid?
Mr. Ochoa, you've heard the testimony today,
Yes, ma'am.
and you understand that there are still services that you're required to complete.
Yes.
Okay, among those is another OSAR.
Is that like the drug and alcohol stuff?
Yes, a drug and alcohol assessment.
Because I'm doing that for my probation, and I signed some papers that said that it might go to you guys. Or for the
Okay,
case.
but if the department is requesting another OSAR, that's something you're willing to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and have you completed your BIP classes?
No, ma'am. I have 2 left.
2 BIP classes left, okay. And you recently drug screened for the department at their request, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. But they said it wasn't hot enough.
Okay, now it's your understanding, or do you understand that it's better to go screen and have a positive result than to not screen and have it presumed positive? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you went to screen in an effort with a guess that you were probably going to be positive, but you went to screen in an effort to show compliance.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at the beginning of this case, you worked at the same place as Miss Little, is that correct?
I did.
Okay. And you left that job due to you guys working in the same place and it causing conflicts.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you changed employment not because you were trying to job hop or not work, but it was because you were trying to resolve the issues that you and Miss Little had.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And are you currently working now?
Yes.
Okay. And where are you working?
Little Caesars. I'm trying to get another job also.
Okay. And so far as transportation, you're able to obtain transportation to and from your job.
Yes.
Okay. And so if you needed transportation for anything else, you could obtain transportation for that. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you're living with your grandparents. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you been living with them?
I don't know the exact date, but since shoot, last year, whenever me and Scarlett separated.
Okay. And so the reason that you don't necessarily have an apartment is because you and Scarlett were living together and you moved out.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And concerning visitation, at the beginning of this case, you were restricted from visitation due to your bond conditions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so you didn't have visitation, but you were trying to comply with the terms and conditions of your bond. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so after that bond condition was lifted, how many visits did you attend?
I'm not sure. I know I missed like 2, 3 of them due to the transportation part.
Okay. So you were having transportation issues, and that's the reason that you missed your visits.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But do you no longer have that issue with transportation, or has that been fixed in some way?
No. Yeah. I mean, I have transportation now. It was just because where it was at, which was kind of making it harder for me to find a ride.
Okay, but now you could get transportation if you need it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and you understand that the other visits that you've been restricted from were due to not testing for the department. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you understand that if you want visitation back, then you would have to, provide clean drug screens for the department.
Yes.
Okay. And are you asking today for an extension to give you more time to complete the services that are remaining?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
All right, Ms. Wiggins, questions?
Mr. Soria Ochoa, you pled guilty to 2 counts of endangering injury to a child. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And that was against Draco, correct, as the victim.
Yeah.
And specifically, one of those was for the child testing positive for cocaine and in the same time period as you testing positive for cocaine.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was in May of 2023. Is that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
And he was living with you at the time before the child was removed.
Yes.
Now, in regards to your first OSAR evaluation, you completed that in August of 2023. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So you've had since the end of August to complete the Padre program for your drug use, correct?
Yes.
And yet you have not done so. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And instead, you've continued to use cocaine.
I haven't, but yeah.
So you're testifying that the hair follicle screen that says positive for cocaine is not accurate?
No, yeah, it is. I'm sorry.
When was the last time you used?
Sometime last year, I believe.
And so you're telling the court that from last year, your hair is still positive for cocaine?
No, it shouldn't be, no.
And you have given a negative screen in October of 23 to the department. So you're capable of giving negative screens. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And yet now you're somehow positive for cocaine.
Yeah.
How did you become positive for cocaine?
Yes, I used it time.
Have you been around individuals who have been using cocaine?
I'm sorry, y'all talked over each other. I believe he said he used, but I couldn't hear him. Is that what you said, sir?
Yeah, during that time, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Sorry, Ms. Wiggins, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I misunderstood that. Thank you, Judge, for clarifying. Now, in regards to your other services, your attorney talked about the rational behavior therapy, which is 1-day class. Is that your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
And yet you've had a whole year to complete that 1-day class and you haven't done it.
Right.
And how often are BIP classes available to you?
I have them every Wednesday at 4 p.m.
Okay. And so if you had completed, let's see, you said you have 2 remaining ones, is that correct?
Yes.
You had 18, so you had 18 weeks to complete it, but yet it's been significantly longer than that, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right, thank you, Ms. Grant.
Mr. Soria Ochoa, you understand that not only are you supposed to complete the services, you're supposed to implement the teachings of each service, correct?
Yes.
And as part of the teachings of the different services in your service plan, has your violent nature been one of the topics of discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you continued through the course of this case to attempt to locate Scarlett Little and go to her home?
In the beginning, yes, I haven't, though.
You understand that Miss Little does not want you coming to her home, nor does she want to be present in the location as you anymore?
Yes, ma'am.
And is there a reason why you've been unable to respect that decision?
No.
Did you go to her house at one point and attempt to enter the home against her wishes?
I believe so, yes.
Did you break some windows out of the home while you were there?
No, I don't think so. No.
Did you bang on the door and continue to call her phone continuously and refuse to leave?
Yes.
Have you changed your phone number throughout this case in an attempt to call her from different numbers?
No, my phone broke.
So do you use an application on your phone to achieve different phone numbers?
I did, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's been impossible for Miss Little to block you due to different phone numbers, correct?
Yeah.
And she finally changed her phone number to keep you from contacting her. Is that true?
I guess so.
Objection, speculation.
Overrule.
How long has it been since you've contacted her at this point, sir?
Couple months. since I don't know the exact date.
Okay. You understand today Miss Little is asking for her information to not be published and for you not to contact her anymore. Do you understand that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you. Sir, I represent Ariana Garza, and essentially I'm asking the same question. I mean, isn't it true that you reached out to Ariana via phone and made threatening texts to her?
Yeah.
And also, did you use an app or an application on your phone to provide different phone numbers when you were attempting to contact her?
I believe once, yes.
Okay. And when is the last time that you had contact with Ariana Garza?
I don't even know.
Okay. And again, same question, or do you understand that Ms. Garza no longer wants to have any contact from you whatsoever? Is that your understanding?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
All right, anyone have follow-ups for Mr. Ochoa?
Just briefly, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. Ochoa, you understand that neither mom wants to have contact with you. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And are you willing to refrain from attempting to contact either one of them should these cases be continued?
Yes.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
All right. Anyone else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then. Ms. Kincaid, did you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, rest.
Mr. Jackson, any witnesses?
Yes, I'll briefly call Ariana Garza.
All right. Ms. Garza, if you'd unmute. Thank you, ma'am. If you'd raise your right hand without dropping your child. Thank you. You swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you. Ariana, Aurora was placed with you back in March, on March 11th of 2024. How's Aurora doing today?
She's great. She's with her father's grandmother at the moment due to her not having school, and I do have work here in a bit at 10:30. So her grandmother decided to go ahead and babysit her for me due to her always saying, "Oh, well, is it time to go home? Can we go home yet?" So instead of her there bored, I just decided to drop her off with her grandmother.
Okay. And as far as this case is concerned, you've completed all your services. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you were present during all of the testimony this morning. Is that correct?
Yes, I was.
And the department had testified that since the drug test came out back in June, that ever since you've maintained your sobriety throughout the entirety of this case. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And did you hear, or were you able to hear Miss Little's testimony in regard to the way that she was harassed by Mark Ochoa Soror?
Yeah.
Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Were you harassed in the same manner?
Yes. Not as much, but still.
Okay. And are you asking that your address or contact information not be disclosed in this court order or in any other paperwork that is available to Mark Ochoa?
Yes.
And are you asking that this child, that Aurora, be placed with you and that you be named permanent managing conservator of
Yes.
Aurora? Okay.
Yes.
And are you asking for the department to be dismissed?
Yes.
And I think that you heard the father's testimony that he was seeking an extension in this case. And I believe it applies to yours as well. Or do you object to the court granting an extension in this case for him to allow him to be able to finish the services that were initially ordered?
And yes.
Okay. And he's had the same opportunity that you've had to work those services. Is that your understanding? And the request that you're making, do you believe that to be in the best interest of Aurora?
Completely.
Ask the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Wiggins, any questions?
Just a couple, Your Honor. If Mr. Soria Ochoa was terminated in your case, would you be able to financially support your child without his assistance?
Yes, I have been already.
Okay. No further questions, Judge.
Ms. Grant?
No questions of this witness.
Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Ms. Garza?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Just one follow-up, Judge, if I may. Ms. Garza, in the event that the father's rights are not terminated, are you asking the court to limit his ability to visit with Aurora Soria?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that no visits at this time would be in her best interest?
Completely.
Okay. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anyone else?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Does anyone else have further witnesses? All right, then. Does everyone rest and close?
Rest and close.
Rest and close.
Okay. All right. Let me take these cases one at a time. I will name Ms. Garza the sole permanent managing conservator. I do find that it's in the best interest of the child of parental rights of the father, Mark Antonio Soria Ochoa, be terminated. I'll terminate those rights today based on Texas Family Code, section 161.001, subsection B, 1D, E, L, N as in Nancy, and O. I will find that the department and all court-appointed relationships should be dismissed after all appellate and de novo periods have expired. And I will order that no one in this case nor the Ms. Garza be required. Well, I'll just order that they not disclose any of Ms. Garza or Aurora's identifying information. Since we have a final resolution in that case, there will be no further hearing set. In cause number 83, I will grant the department's motion to extend the case and retain the case on the court's docket. I'll continue the department as temporary managing conservator, continue Miss Little as possessory conservator. In that case, I find that it's in the best interest of Draco and Aviana that the parental rights of the father, Mark Antonio Soria Ochoa, be terminated. Again, I'll terminate those rights based on Texas Family Code, section 161.001, subsections B1D, E, L, N, and O. That will be a termination on an interlocutory basis as we have continued this case and retained it on the court's docket. And again, in this case, I will continue the children's current placement, and I will order that no one in the case nor Miss Little will disclose Miss Little or any of those children's identifying information. In that case, I'll set another permanency review hearing on August 19th, 2024. That will be by Zoom like today's hearing, so parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket a day or two in advance of August 19th. Ms. Wiggins is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram's with us representing the children. Ms. Lucero's with us representing the mother, Ignacia Casillas. I don't see her in the waiting room unless she's under some other name. Ms. Lucero, were you expecting your client?
If you'll just keep a lookout for her. But yes, I've had contact with her.
Okay. All right. And then Ms. Mullinax is with us representing the father, Mr. Rodriguez, who is with us. All right then. This case was set for 10 o'clock. It's now 10:18. We will proceed in Ms. Casillas' absence. I'll watch the waiting room for her. Ms. Wiggins, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. I'd call Lisa Hooper. And how are the children, or I guess let's back up. Where are the children currently placed?
They are placed with their paternal grandmother in Pampa.
Okay. And how long have they been placed with the paternal grandparents?
They have been there since the beginning of the case, November 28th of 2023.
Okay. Judge, I know we're running behind, but can I get a breakout room with Miss Hooper and Miss Devereaux?
Yeah, let me see if let me get another room. Mr. Jackson's still one of them.
Okay. I apologize, Judge.
That's all right.
Okay, Judge, we're back. That was entirely my fault. I got the cases mixed up. So.
Okay, then are we ready to proceed?
Yes, I apologize.
That's all right. I can't remember.
Yes, I had started asking her questions.
Okay, go ahead with Miss Hooper then.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the kiddos are placed with grandparents. Is that correct?
Correct.
And how are they doing in that placement?
They're doing very well. Nehemiah continues to have ear infections repeatedly. They are looking at a specialist to see if he may need tubes in his ears. But other than that, they're doing healthy. They're doing great. The baby is sleeping through the night. Sometimes he decides to wake up once, but for the most part, he sleeps through the night. Nehemiah is doing great. So they're both doing very well. Daycare is going well. So we have no concerns there.
Okay, great. And how is the mom on her progress in her services?
Mom is doing very well. Mom has, let me get my page on here. She has completed parenting and she provided me with a certificate. She began working at Allsips on February 29th. She's working at about 40 hours a week. She has provided me with a check stub for there. She had a warrant out for 3 different tickets that she has had, and she has contacted the police department and has started working on paying those 1 ticket at a time to get those paid off. So she's doing well there. She continues to live with her sister Elia. She has tested negative in April. It wasn't on the court report, but also in April she had a UA, which was negative. She completed a psych eval in February, and she has completed 6 sessions of individual counseling, and her counselor agreed to do 6 more. So they are in their second set of 6 sessions.
Okay, so it sounds like she's making really good progress for being only halfway through the case. Is that a fair statement?
She's doing very well, yes.
Okay. And due to that, has the department given her some unsupervised visitation?
Yes, starting week before last, she has 2 hours a week on Wednesday from 3 to 5. She picks up the children from the daycare, and then at 5 o'clock she meets Gloria, who is placement at the daycare, and exchanges the children back to placement for them to go home. So far those are going well. She's only had 2 of them so far, but they're going well so far.
Okay. And does she have other visitation outside those 2 hours of unsupervised?
No.
Okay. Now, in regards to the father, how is he progressing on his services?
He's doing well. He has remained, he's still employed at Little Bill's Plumbing. He's been there since January of this year. He continues to live with his father and stepmother. He has completed the parenting, and he has provided me with a certificate for that. For drug testing, he tested negative in April, along with the past negative tests. He has completed a psychological evaluation. At the time I did the report, he had completed 5 sessions of counseling with the counselor. I'm sure there's been more since then, but at the time he had completed 5 sessions with the counselor. And he has seen me every month on face-to-face.
Okay. And so we are working with him and trying to find a solution for his BIP program. He was ordered to do that. So we're trying to, due to transportation, possibly give him different avenues of completing that. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what is his visitation?
I believe on Thursday from 5 to 7. He has visits his mother is the placement. And so he goes to her home for the visitation for 2 hours a week.
Okay. And are those visits going well?
Yes, they're going very well.
All right. Are we asking for, it sounds like both have drug screened for April. Are we asking for any additional drug screens?
We'll do drug screens in May, like as we do, but not any additional outside of that. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, if we needed any order today.
No, ma'am.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Hooper, at the outset of this case, Mr. Rodriguez was arrested, I guess, due to the domestic violence. Do you know what the is that still pending, or do you know, has it been resolved?
He got probation, I believe, for that. Through his probation, he was required or ordered to do BIP.
Okay.
So it's the same. It will be the same. He will be able to use the CPS BIP for the probation BIP.
Okay. It sounds like, he's taking care of his criminal offense. So, okay. Thank you.
He's working on it.
Ms. Lucero?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Ms. Hooper, you stated that my client is working the 40 hours a week, as far as you understand, at Allsips, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And her visits on Wednesday from 3 to 5. Has the department looked into, or have y'all discussed increasing those visits?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Are y'all opposed to increasing those visits for Ms. Casillas with the children?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
We can staff it to consider it, but I can't commit to anything without staffing it.
Okay. Because the youngest child is approximately 5 months old, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you'd agree with me that more contact between Ms. Casillas, and she's doing so well, and the children would be beneficial to the children. Wouldn't you agree with me there?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And according to the report, she is compliant with all her services. Well, I know she's not done, but she's working towards completing those services. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'll pass the witness.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Mullinax.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hooper, is it correct that Mr. Rodriguez took care of his criminal case like at the very beginning of the case or around that?
For the domestic violence, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yes, he took care of that.
And you said that it's a condition of his probation that he attends BIP, and so you're agreeable that both of those count toward, or that counts for both of them toward the probation and toward the CPS case.
Yes, ma'am.
And so his problem is that he can't get over here to Amarillo. Is that right?
Yes, I texted him on Friday that there is, I believe it's Panhandle Community Services in Pampa that provides transportation to Amarillo and back to Pampa. I didn't hear back from him, but I believe that's available if he does need transportation.
And so if he cannot get transportation to Amarillo, is there another option for the BIP class?
Not one that St. Francis pays for. Now he has been given the option for virtual, but it's not one that St. Francis pays for.
And can you kind of explain why they wouldn't pay for that if it's an option?
We contacted the facility. It's the option that his probation officer gave me. And I talked to the facility. The person at St. Francis that does the contracting had several conversations with the person, but he would not fill out the paperwork and send it back to St. Francis to get that going. So we have attempted to try to get that contracted and paid for, but we just have not had any luck getting the facility to contact us back to get that completed.
And so you say that he was sent the paperwork. You're talking about whoever is over this program.
Correct.
Okay. And if Panhandle Community Services or whatever you said can't transport him, is there another option for St. Francis to help transport him?
I can request transportation. I can't guarantee every week. We'd have to request it and see what happens. At this point, I can't guarantee transportation every week.
Okay. And I believe Ms. Casillas has supervised or unsupervised visitation, and Mr. Rodriguez still has supervised, correct?
Correct.
Why does he still have supervised?
His counselor has not recommended unsupervised visits.
Have you checked in with his counselor to ask?
No, I have not.
And so don't you think that'd be kind of important to get a recommendation? If you didn't ask, you don't get one?
After he completes the first 6, we will consider it. But he was a little behind on that, so that's why we have not asked yet.
And were you aware that he was behind because the counselor had some kind of family emergency?
That is not what the counselor told me.
And are you aware that he has a counseling session this week?
I am not aware of that.
And so after that 6th one, is it your testimony that you'll be contacting the counselor to get a recommendation?
I can contact the counselor and see how he is doing and go from there, yes.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
All right. Anything further of Ms. Hooper?
Just a few questions, Judge.
Okay.
Would it be contrary to the children's welfare to be returned to either parent today?
Yes.
Would there be placing the children in imminent danger of injury if they're placed with either parent today?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing further.
Anyone else? All right.
Your Honor, I have just one more for Ms. Hooper. Ms. Hooper, following up on those questions just asked of you by Ms. Wiggins, what concerns do you have today regarding placing the children back with my client?
And your client is the mother, is that correct?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Casillas.
Stability. She's had the job now since I believe the end of February. Excuse me. We want to see more stability on her part. We want to see some family counseling in between because both of their psychological evaluations have recommended that, and that has not begun. So we want to see further in the services before then.
Okay. And as far as the family therapy, has she been provided with a counselor to provide those kind of services? Has that been discussed with I guess with the parents for them to start that?
We will discuss that with the counselor that they are seeing now.
Okay.
And once they feel that they are both ready to have family counseling, then they can move into that.
Okay. All right. I'll pass the witness.
Anyone else? All right, Ms. Wiggins, anything further from the department?
No, Your Honor, rest.
Ms. Lucero, anything further?
Your Honor, again, I guess my client wasn't able to make it, but I would just ask the court today, I advise that I would ask for the court to consider increased visits with her. She's doing very well according to the report and the testimony today. The children are young, and we would ask that the court consider maybe two-hour visits, unsupervised visits per week. So for a total of 4 hours a week.
Okay. Ms. Mullinax, any witnesses?
I have no witnesses, Your Honor. However, I would request additional visitation for my client, and also that the St. Francis be directed to get a recommendation from his counselor regarding any unsupervised visitation.
Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I'm not comfortable with that until he at least starts his BIP program. So, okay, Mr. Ingram, any witnesses?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Ingram, recommendations?
Continue department as temporary managing conservator. Continue placement as children are doing well with grandmother.
Do you have any recommendations as to Mr. Rodriguez having additional supervised visits?
I don't have any objection to additional supervised visits as long as his mother is able and willing to supervise the additional visits.
All right. Okay, give me just a minute. All right, then I will continue the department's temporary managing conservator, continue the children's current placements. I'll order that Ms. Casillas have additional visitation up to 4 hours weekly unsupervised. I'll order that Mr. Rodriguez have additional visitation up to 4 hours weekly supervised by placement, if placement is able to do so. And I will order that the St. Francis or the department check into getting a recommendation from Mr. Rodriguez's counselor as to any unsupervised visits in the future. Okay, we will have our next review hearing on August 12th, 2024. That will be by Zoom like today's hearing, so parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket a day or two in advance of August 12th. Second continuation from the final hearing that began on, looks like March 4th, 2024. We've called the case twice, taken some testimony and recessed for various reasons. Ms. Wiggins is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram is with us representing the child. Ms. Mullinax is with us representing the mother, Ms. Thompson, who is with us. We've already had an interlocutory termination on the father, Mr. Eaton. He's not with us. I didn't anticipate him being here. As I recall, y'all tell me this has just gotten so confusing. We recessed last time because we had what we thought was an approved home study on a relative, but that CPS had no one available to approve or deny it. And I also had a note that said that it was announced that the mother would relinquish if that placement was with this relative. Last I showed too, we had, department had called Peyton Sim to testify on March 4th. Ms. Thompson began her testimony on March 4th. And then when we resumed on March 8th, Ms. Thompson had given some more testimony. I don't show that anybody's had a chance to cross-examine. I guess Ms. Mullinax must have called her. So just where do we stand before we get started today?
Your Honor, do you want me to tell him or do you want to tell him?
It doesn't matter. I guess I'll just go from the perspective of the home study. The home study was denied. So therefore we're kind of in the same place we were on March 4th. And so that's kind of where we are. Did you have anything to add, Erin?
Yeah, just that I don't know that there was ever an expectation whether it was going to be approved or not. There just wasn't anybody that had looked at it yet. Okay. Also, I don't think that we had another hearing where she testified additionally. I think it was just on March 4th. And as I was questioning her, Ms. Thompson, you recessed so she could go drug test. So I think she's still actually on direct.
Okay. All right.
That's what I showed as well.
Who called Ms. Thompson?
I did.
So Ms. Wiggins, had you rested?
Yes.
Okay.
And I did need Ms. Sim in while we're.
Oh, okay. I'll get her in while we're still talking. Thanks. All right. Then for the report I had today, it was not written as a final report. It was written as just another permanency report. and the recommendations were that the department continue as temporary managing conservator placements be continued. We have another hearing in 4 months. I show from the date we started this final, we've got to conclude this final by June 2nd. So
yes, that was a mischaracterization of what the department is requesting, Judge.
Okay.
I apologize about that. No, that is a mistake. We will continue the final hearing and obviously want a formal resolution because we're already in extension. So I don't even think that would take us way past. So
yeah, no, June 2nd is our absolute drop dead date. And that's only because we have 90 days to start and conclude the final hearing. So, okay. All right. Then.
Just for the court record, there are 2 different orders resetting the hearing, and they both say final hearing.
Okay. So we're just going to proceed with the final hearing today. So, all right. All right. So Ms. Thompson is still on the stand. I will re-swear her since it's been so long.
And Judge, just to clarify another thing, I'm sorry. You were, and it's why you may not have that I've rested, you were going to allow me to call the investigator and kind of reopen my case because she was unavailable. I actually have to have the supervisor testify. So that may be why I wasn't formally rested.
Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and get the other witnesses out of the way, and then I'll allow you to call a witness that was unavailable.
Thank you.
All right. Let me find Ms. Thompson, if you'd unmute, please. Thank you, ma'am. If you'd raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Mullinax, you were still questioning her, correct?
Yes, Your Honor, and I apologize if I re-ask some questions because I don't have any idea what happened.
It would probably be helpful to the court.
May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
All right, Candice, I do remember asking you about where you were working, and you work at a laundromat, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And if I recall, your days off were Tuesdays and Fridays, is that right?
They have since changed. We have had a employment shortage, and so my days of the week change every week, but my mornings for Tuesdays and Fridays pretty much stay the same.
Okay, and that's significant because you had some visitation scheduled on one of those days, is that right?
Correct.
And what day is your visitation scheduled on?
It was in order to be at the February 7th hearing, I had to work Friday, February 2nd. And I had to cancel my visit a week in advance since I knew I was going to be working that Friday in order to be in court on Wednesday.
And so your visits are typically on Fridays, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so other than that visitation that you had to cancel because of court, have you missed other Friday visits with the child?
Yes, I have. There was a couple where Kenna was sick. There was one where I was sick. I was having vehicle issues. Kevin smashed out the windshield in my truck, and I was not able to see out of my truck. And then the brake lines were cut, and I had to get a car. My car didn't get here until too late. So there's been a couple since the February hearing that I've missed.
And so would you agree with me that most of the visits you've made, but there have been extenuating circumstances for the ones you didn't make?
Yes.
And I can't remember if I asked you this or not, but have you obtained a protective order against Mr. Eaton?
Yes.
And has that been in effect since around November of 2023?
Yes.
Okay. And so is he in your life anymore at this point to have contact with Kenna if you had her?
No.
All right. Has he recently been arrested for violating that protective order?
Yes.
When was that?
Last week. I don't remember what day it was last week. I think it was, I really don't remember what day it was last week, but it was last week, and then he was released the next day on bond.
And at this point, does he, as far as you're aware, does he have a bond condition that he can't be around you as well?
Yes.
All right. You testified previously, I think there was some testimony from the caseworker, maybe that you had not attended some drug screens, and you testified that you had to work for some of those drug screens. Is that correct?
Correct.
I just wanted to refresh the court on that. Otherwise, have you completed all of the services that you were required to complete?
Yes.
With regard to the Did you do the Padre program? Is that what you did?
Yes, I did the Padre program, and then I also did the daily recovery program, which was added into my family plan in March of last year. I did the parenting classes through the Hope Center.
Okay, hold on. Okay. You just have to answer the questions that I ask. So I'm specifically talking about Padre. You did Padre and completed it when?
I believe I started it in January. I believe. It was very soon after the family plan was initiated that I started Padre, and I completed it within the time frame that it was.
And you say you thought January. Do you mean January of this year or January of last year?
Oh, last year, 2023.
And then the daily recovery, you attended that when?
It started in, I believe, July of 2023, and I finished around October 2023.
And in that daily recovery, did you come into contact with someone named Gage Polk?
Yes, he was my counselor for the class.
And you successfully completed that daily recovery program?
Yes.
As I guess, during that daily recovery program, did you come up with something called a relapse prevention plan?
Yes, I did. And
tell the court what a relapse prevention plan is.
It was a exercise where we have to state a situation that we think that we might go into relapse, and the steps that we've learned to sort of keep ourselves from going into relapse, different techniques to like meditation, reaching out to a sponsor, reaching out to a friend, letting somebody know something's going on, finding something else to do other than go and use, things like that.
And have you used any of those things in your relapse prevention plan since you came up with it?
Yes.
Is that something that you're still using as of today?
Yes.
With regard to Kenna, she's placed in a foster home, is that right?
Correct.
And what is your request for her today?
That I get her back. I mean, I've done everything that the court asked, and I love my child. I don't want to lose her.
Do you believe it's in her best interest to come back to you at this point in time?
At this point in time, yes.
And it's not a trick, and I'm just asking you what you believe.
In my personal opinion, I think that my mom would be a better placement, but my mom is willing to move up here so that I can be near Kenna and still be in her life. Right now, I'm not even in her life except for visits. I've never met the foster family, nothing. My goal is to, and has been since day one, to get her back and raise her myself. Okay. I was a single mom for Leanna, and she turned out really wonderfully.
Okay, hold on. So you said that you think your mom would be a better placement than you. Why do you think your mom would be a better placement than you?
Not better, per se. She's got the financial stability, whereas I am still trying to build up savings and things like that. Rent, bills, things like that. As a single mom is a lot harder to provide.
And you talked about your mom. What is your mom's name?
Dawn Hayes.
And is Dawn Hayes the person who had a home study done that the court referred to or order earlier that we talked about? Her home study was denied.
Yes.
Even though that's been denied, are you requesting if the child is not returned to you that she be placed with your mother, Dawn Hayes?
Yes.
And you talked about financial stability. You told us you're employed. What is your hourly rate and how many hours a week do you work?
I get paid $11.50 an hour, and I work anywhere between 38 and 49 hours a week.
And what are those hours, or are they different?
We have two different shifts. It's a 7 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. shift or a 2:30 to 9 p.m. shift. They alternate. It's not a set schedule.
If you have a schedule for 1 week, how far in advance do you get that schedule?
An entire month.
And so you have the ability to find out when you're working for the whole month prior to the actual schedule work happening.
Yes. Yes.
And so if you have the ability to get a schedule a month in advance, do you have any plans for care of the child if you had her and you were working?
Yes, I do.
What are those plans?
I have a friend who said that she would babysit if it was like an evening shift. And I've been looking at a couple of different daycares for a daytime shift.
And you talk about daycares. Would you have the ability to make the payments for that daycare if you had Kenna?
Yes.
And she is how old at this time?
About a year and a half.
And so she's not old enough to go to pre-K or anything like that at this time?
No, not yet.
And do you have a home that you can provide a room and things like that for Kenna if you had her?
Yes.
And I don't want you to tell me the address, but is that home in Amarillo at this time?
Yes, it is.
Have you provided the caseworker with that address?
Yes, I have.
And has the caseworker been able to go and view the home?
Yes, she has.
How big is the home?
I don't know square footage wise, actually. I think it's about 500 square feet. It's
how many rooms is it? How many bedrooms?
It's a 1-bedroom efficiency apartment. Well, it's called a shotgun efficiency. It's got a living room separated from the bedroom area and a kitchen.
And do you have a place for Kenna to sleep in that?
Yes, I do.
And do you have clothing or anything available to you for her if she were to come home to you?
I have a bed. I do have clothes. I have a high chair. I have a car seat. I have everything that I was going to need.
And you understand that the department is asking that your parental rights be terminated at this time?
Yes.
Do you believe termination of your parental rights is in your child's best interest?
No, I don't.
When is the last time you used methamphetamine?
April 1st of 2022.
And have you attended NA or AA meetings in this case?
I have done the meetings through the Padre program and then the ones with daily recovery, but not specifically NA. I did some online NA groups on my own, but it was not something that was like required for it. It just seemed to help a little bit.
With the Padre and daily recovery, do you get like a sponsor like you would going to AA and NA?
Gage was our sponsor, and he did like one-on-one sessions each week and checked in with us pretty much 3 or 4 times a week outside of our class times. And I was always able to call him if there was any problems or issues.
And so after you completed daily recovery, was Gage still your sponsor or no?
Periodically we checked in with each other, but it was not as often as it was while I was in class.
And you said you have another child, Leanna. How old is she?
She's 17.
Does she have a relationship with Kenna?
We were building one before she moved down to Houston with my mom.
And so she's had contact with the child.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we have video chats every time that I have a visit with Kenna. We spend about 20 minutes on video. Kenna adores Leanna. She always wants to call and talk to her, and they blow kisses to each other. We've had several visits where I'll bring breakfast, and Leanna and Kenna will sit on the video chat and have breakfast together. She talks to my mom as well. I mean, they're very familiar as far as over video. Leanna has met her, and Kenna has met her in person. She just has not met my mother in person. And
as we sit here today, do you believe there's anything that you haven't done in order to get your child back?
No.
I'm past the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Wiggins, questions?
Now, you indicated that you last used methamphetamine April 1st of 2022. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so do you remember admitting to the investigator that you used a couple of weeks before October 11th of 2022?
I did not actually use, and I've said that in court before as well. I was around it, but I did not actually use.
So you saying you last used meth a couple of weeks ago while you were pregnant, that's not an accurate statement?
No, I was around it.
Now, you already admitted into evidence is your positive drug screen from October of 2022. Do you aware of that?
Yeah.
Okay. And throughout the case, you've tested positive for methamphetamine. Or were you around people then who consumed methamphetamine? Is that why you were positive?
I do know that Kevin was using it. I didn't know at the time that he was using until I started coming up positive.
And so that would have been October then. Is that what you're saying?
No, I knew that he was using in October. After Kenna was born and after the case started, I did not know that he was still using.
When did you leave him?
When did I what?
Leave him? When did you leave?
In October 13th of 2023.
And so since that time, you did not drug screen in November, December, January, or February for the department. Is that correct?
I went in January. I don't know why they can't find my results.
And you don't have those results either. Is that correct?
I could not afford an outside test. No.
But you indicated, I believe, when you last testified that you had the form, but somehow somebody borrowed your car and threw the form away of your January test.
Yeah.
So then you did test when the judge ordered you March 4th of 2024. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I don't know how that came up positive because I haven't used.
Let me ask, I'm assuming, Ms. Wiggins, you're talking about petitioner's exhibits 10 and 11?
Yes, I'm sorry. I would like to admit those. I don't think I formally have admitted those. I would offer petitioner's exhibit 10 and 11. They do have business records and they have been on file for more than 14 days.
All right, objections?
And Your Honor, I have a pretty lengthy objection for the record.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd object under Texas Rules of Evidence 8036, specifically in Ray KCP out of Texarkana states that business records on drug screens in a CPS termination case should be treated like a criminal case where any information or the lack of information regarding the qualifications of the person or equipment used, the method of administering the test and particular substance, and whether the test was a standard one for the particular substance indicates a lack of trustworthiness. The business records affidavit does state that mass spectrometry and gas chromatography was used. However, there is no information as to the qualification of the person who did the testing other than the name of the person. There's not a curriculum vitae or anything attached. There's no method of administering the test included in the information. And there's no information as to whether the test was a standard one for the particular substance that it was tested for. So there's a lack of trustworthiness, and I would object to the relevance of it as well.
Okay, that will be overruled. If there's no other objections, petitioners 10 and 11 are admitted.
So you're indicating that you have not used and you have no idea why you would be positive on a urine and a hair follicle drug screen.
Correct.
And now
I didn't hear that response. I don't know if Amy did or not.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And you were denying that you told the investigator that you used specifically. Is that correct?
I don't remember what I told the investigator, to be honest. At that point, I had barely been out of surgery for 48 hours. They had taken my daughter away. During all of this, my body had started going septic. And a week after I had my C-section, I had to go in and have emergency surgery. I was still on magnesium at that point, I believe.
Okay. So you don't remember what you said to her. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I really do not. I know that I was pretty out of it.
And in regards to, you were still able to drug screen on October 12th of 2022, correct?
I was told on Monday, I believe, which was the 11th, that I was getting discharged. I was rushed out of my room, told to be out by 6:00 p.m. Kiki, who is the investigator, told me that she would pick me up in the morning, take me to Care Express for a UA, and then take me back to the hotel because Kevin and I lived fairly far from the hospital. And at that point, Kenna was needing to be fed every 3 hours, and it was easier for us to stay at a hotel than it was to go home and come back every essentially 20 minutes by the time everything was said and done.
Okay. And so Kiki did pick you up, and she did take you to hair follicle drug screen on October 12th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Now, you also have a positive urine screen for August of 2023. Is that correct?
I don't know, to be honest.
Okay, so that was
I was never actually told the results of anything other than anytime we were in court and we had to stop visits. I mean,
okay, well, you understand you had to complete a second OSAR because you tested positive. So you were told about that. Is that correct?
Your Honor, could you let us know have which exhibits of the petitioner have been admitted?
Let me look real quick.
I
have Miss Thompson's October 12th, 2022, drug test results that were petitioner's exhibit 2, where she was positive for methamphetamine. Let me see what else I have. I have Miss Thompson's June 16th, 2023 UA drug screen, positive for methamphetamine, and her May 17th, 2023 hair strand drug screen, where she was positive for methamphetamine. That was petitioner's exhibit 5. The last one I said was, petitioner's exhibit 2. Petitioner's exhibit 7 was admitted. That is Miss Thompson's urine drug screen from August 3rd, 2023, where she was positive for methamphetamine. And then, of course, we have 10 and 11, which have been admitted today.
And Aaron, for my records, the only ones I haven't admitted are exhibits 6 and 8. And those were for Mr. Eaton.
And 9. Something about a neonatal abstinence syndrome. That's not been admitted. I don't even know what it is.
And Judge, I think that she attempted to admit that and I objected, and you said that you were I think that she could provide more evidence, or you were going to review something. I can't remember.
You talking about exhibit 9?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm not inclined to admit it. If you need to for your record, Ms. Wiggins, you can do it, but I'm not inclined to admit it. And I agree with you. The only two I have, the 3 that have not been admitted were 6, 8, and 9. So at least we're all kind of back on track where we were from the last hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Now, how often do you talk to Dawn Hayes?
I try and keep in contact with her and Leanna about every day, every other day, depending on my work schedule.
And so all the information that she has about the case basically has come from you. Is that correct?
Yes. We try not to.
Okay. Thank you. Judge, I believe she answered the question.
Yeah. Ms. Thompson, if you would just answer the question you're asked instead of elaborating on your answer.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Okay, Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
Hey, Ms. Mullinex, do you have follow-ups for your client?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, then. Ms. Mullinex, did you have any other witnesses?
Gage Polk.
Okay. I'm sorry, while we're waiting, I do. Ms. Thompson, will you tell me, what do you mean when you say you weren't using methamphetamine, but you were around people using? I've heard that in half of the cases I've had for 12 years. What does it mean when you're around them?
A friend of mine had come in from out of town, and she was partaking. I was in the same room. It was passed to me. I did not hit it. or I did not smoke it. I passed it back to her and told her no, that, being pregnant, I wouldn't, and I couldn't. But I was in the same room, in the same vicinity.
Was that your home?
No, it was not.
Well, so was this after your child had been removed?
No, this was while I was pregnant.
Okay.
And I was not there for very long because there was drug usage. But I did not walk out when they were smoking. So, I was around it. That's all I can say.
Okay. And you've just heard me go over all the positive drug screens you've had during the pendency of this case. Is that your same excuse? That's because you were around people that may be why you tested positive?
No, I found out in about June of last year that Kevin had gone back to smoking. I was not aware of it. I don't know.
Okay.
It caused lots of issues between us. So.
And you heard Ms. Wiggins ask you about your 4 months of missed drug screens. Is it what you're telling me is for 4 months it conflicted with your work schedule and you couldn't manage to get in and drug screen?
Most of the time, I would not get a text message until later on in the morning to go and drug screen. And the way Tornado works is during the week, there's only one person on staff. We have our morning shift and then we have our evening shift, and the entire company itself is shorthanded pretty much all the time. And so there's not really anybody extra to come in and cover a shift.
Okay. This is a real simple question. When they send over the form for you to drug test, it's good for quite a while. So are you telling me 4 months you couldn't get in and drug test?
I was never told that I had more than any time after 4 p.m. that day that I was told to go and drug screen that I could do it. I had no idea there was extra time to do it. I would have done it. I asked Peyton several times.
Okay. You've answered my question. All right, Mr. Polk, if you would please, Ms. Mullinax.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Polk, I'm going to go about this a little bit backwards. Are you familiar with Candice Thompson?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
And how are you familiar with Candice Thompson?
I was her counselor at Daily Recovery Services.
Okay, and now to that question. Are you currently employed at Daily Recovery Services?
No, ma'am, I'm not.
All right, when did you leave Daily Recovery Services?
It was December 1st.
And prior to leaving, how long had you been employed with Daily Recovery Services?
Almost a year.
And in that job at Daily Recovery Services for a year, what was your role at that place?
I was the program director. For the last 6 months that I was there, I was the program director for the specialized female program.
And as the program director, what were your job requirements and duties?
So the only duties that I had were to meet with my clients once a week and to have 2 classes per week that were 2 hours long each. I did extra duties, but that was my main duties.
And in your employment with Daily Recovery Services, what qualifications did you have to have for that position?
I have to hold at least a counselor intern license, LCDC counselor intern license.
And at that time, did you hold that counselor intern license?
Yes, ma'am, and I still do.
And so with regard to Ms. Thompson, when specifically did you come into contact with her and for how long, if you know?
I believe that I came into contact with her about August, because that's whenever I moved to the specialized female program. And she was discharged successfully in October, I believe.
And so in order to be discharged successfully from Daily Recovery Services, what does she have to do for that?
She had to be attending classes regularly. She had to be attending her individual sessions regularly. She had to be showing growth, and she had to be able to pass drug tests for us.
And do you recall, if you do, how many drug tests that she had to pass or that you gave her?
I don't recall how many. I do believe she had several, and she tested negative on each of them. They were UAs.
And is that, if you know, or if you remember, is that on a weekly basis or every time she comes in, or how does that work?
No, ma'am. I believe it was, we would drug test her. We would call her in occasionally. I didn't work in the Amarillo office. I'm out of Lubbock. So I didn't actually oversee the drug testing. I had the records at the time, and I would review the records for my classes. She drug tested, I believe, at least 2 times we called her in, and then one time she came in on her own.
And whenever you're drug testing, and I'm not asking you for the results of drug tests at all, but whenever you're drug testing while you were working at Daily Recovery, if someone didn't pass a drug screen, what would happen?
I would work with them more intensively. I like to get to know my clients, and I like to see that there is growth within my clients. And so if they do not pass a drug test, I would require that they would have more individual sessions per week than they were required.
And so working with Ms. Thompson, was there ever a point when you required that she work or attend more individual sessions?
No, ma'am. She actually requested that she attend extra sessions.
And you said she was successfully discharged. What specifically, I mean, are there a specific number of classes that she has to take to be successfully discharged?
She had to take 24 classes and 12 individual sessions to be considered successful. So that's 36 sessions, I believe. She did each and every one of them. She was on time. I do recall that she was very diligent in coming to class, in doing her groups, in coming to her individual sessions. We even had family sessions at times.
And with regard to things that were done during the sessions, was there a time that you worked with her to implement a relapse prevention plan?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I believe it was earlier in the time that I was there. A relapse prevention plan is really important to recovery, and I felt that if she was truly serious, she would continue to do this relapse prevention and be diligent with it.
And did she cooperate in preparing that plan with you?
Yes, ma'am. I gave her homework that she had to do over the week that I didn't see her between our individual sessions, and she came back with her homework, and she was able to do it with no questions asked. She did it very well. And I think that it was important that she did do it.
And so during the time that you worked with her at Daily Recovery, did you have any concerns that she wasn't working the plan diligently?
No, ma'am. She had mentioned to me several times that she had been using the relapse prevention plan because she was scared of relapsing.
And so are you the person that discharges them successfully, or were you?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
And so at the end of the period, after she completed the individual and group sessions like you testified to, did you have any concerns that she wasn't going to be successful at that point?
No, ma'am. At that point, and even in the contact that I've had with her since she discharged successfully, I believe that I don't have any concerns and that she is on the right track. And
you said that you left, I think, December 1st of 2023. Have you had any contact with Ms. Thompson since that time?
Yes, ma'am. February 28th, I believe, was one of the last times I spoke with her.
And was she contacting you regarding this, or was she contacting you regarding something with the classes?
So I contacted her, and it was not necessarily in regards to this. It was to see how she was doing, so I could get a feel for what I would say in regards to this. Yes.
And so at the time that you spoke with her, did you have any concerns about her sobriety at that time?
No, ma'am. I hadn't been in contact with her for a while. It'd been at least 2 months since I'd spoken with her, but I did not have any concerns at that time. No, ma'am.
I pass the witness.
Ms. Wiggins?
So, Mr. Polk, just to verify, she was in your program from August of 2023 to October of 2023. Is that correct?
I believe she was in there before I took over that program, but it was in that time period. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you were only working with her from August to October?
Yes, ma'am.
And during that course of time, those were the only times and access that you had to any drug screens of Ms. Thompson. Is that correct?
Could you elaborate?
Do you know, have you drug screened her after October of 2023?
No, ma'am, I haven't.
Okay. And so you don't know of anything in her drug screens after October of 2023?
No, ma'am.
Now, if in your program or when you were part of that program, if you called someone in to drug screen and they didn't show up, what was the result of that test? What did y'all deem that?
Having worked for CPS before, I did deem that as a automatic positive.
Okay, and you indicated that as somebody tested for you and they were positive, your policy would be to increase the times they came to see you. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And if in recovery is one of the most important parts of recovery to accept that you have a problem and then work through that problem.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Did Miss Thompson tell you when she had last used?
She had told me that she had used in April of 22, I believe. I don't know. She never mentioned that she had used during our sessions since then, and she never tested positive for us at that time.
Okay, but you do know she was referred to the OSAR and that your treatment was recommended. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And is generally treatment recommended only when there is a past history of drug use?
Treatment is recommended based on OSAR works in different ways. So it's an assessment of drug use. So if you have higher drug use, daily drug use or something like that, you're going to go to an inpatient program, correct? But if you're not using or you've used very little in the past year, they are going to recommend that you do outpatient to continue your recovery.
Okay, and so you saw her in October of 23, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so October of 2022 would be the year, and you indicated she admitted to drug use April of 22. So clearly there was some indication she had used within the last year to refer her to your program, correct?
I can't testify to what OSAR did.
Okay, so would it surprise you to know that in August of 2020?
I didn't hear the rest of his answer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can't testify to what OSAR did, and you said, okay, so, and he said something else I did not hear.
I can't testify to how OSAR screened her or how they decided on where she went from there.
Okay, so would it surprise you to know that in August of 2023, she tested positive for a drug screen?
No, ma'am, it would not surprise me because she had told me that she had tested positive. So I had her drug test for us.
Okay, so when you said that she admitted to drug use in April of 2022, she also admitted to drug use after that?
No, ma'am, she did not admit to it. She says she doesn't know how she came up positive. And I do believe that the results of those tests were negative for us. Now, we are not a lab tested program. We do a simple UA with what we have.
Okay, but having a results or knowing that there are results that are positive even outside of your program would be beneficial as part of your treatment.
Yes, and I drug tested her, and I did try. She asked for extra sessions at that time.
Okay, even though she tested negative.
Yes, she had been asking for extra sessions at that time. So before this, and I finally conceded and said, okay, let's do this.
Okay, and so would it now concern you that she has tested positive again in March of 2024?
It would concern me because I haven't had contact with her since then. Now, is it a concern big enough to keep her child from her?
I'm going to object that.
You're not qualified to answer that question. Just answer what you're asked.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to pass the witness, Judge.
All right, Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
All right, Ms. Mullinex, follow-ups?
Just briefly, Gage, you were asked if it would be, I guess, important for you to know if she had had any positive drug screens, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that Ms. Thompson did notify you that she had a positive drug screen through the department?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you took that into account whenever you were making, I guess, determinations as to whether you should give her more intensive treatment?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
I pass the witness.
Anyone else have other questions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Polk, when you said, I take it from what you said they would be asked to come in That would be a random drug test. You'd call and say it's time for you to come in.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Okay. How long did you give them to come in before you would deem that to be positive?
We would generally give them at least 2 days, I believe. I don't recall offhand exactly how long, as I didn't do those drug tests specifically. Miss Daly, Lydia Daly, my supervisor, did those drug tests.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes,
all right. If no one has further questions for Mr. Pock, can he be excused?
No objection.
Okay. Mr. Pock, thank you for your testimony. I'll remove you so you can go about your afternoon's business.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You have a great day.
You too. All right. Ms. Mullinax, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, rest.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Ingram, do you have any witnesses?
No, sir.
All right, then, Ms. Wiggins, did you want to call your other witness that we discussed earlier?
I did, Judge.
Okay.
The Melody Zuniga. And did you supervise a worker, Keyshawn Mahone?
Yes.
And as a supervisor, what do you do when you're supervising a case with a worker? How much contact do you have with that worker?
Ongoing contact from the beginning of the case until the end. Every bit of information that she gathers throughout the investigation is staffed with me.
Okay, and based on that information and your conversations with her, that's what y'all determined the course of the case. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, did CPS in general receive an intake on October 9th of 22 regarding a Kenna?
Yes.
And what were the allegations?
Kenna, so the allegations were that Ms. Thompson had tested positive for methamphetamines on the day of admission to give birth to Kenna. Kenna was negative on her urine screen. And at the time of birth, she was not showing withdrawal symptoms, but the meconium had been collected and results were pending.
Okay. And based on that, what is the general process for your workers?
So my workers will go out and make contact with both parents and the child to collect more information.
And based on your experience and in this case, did that happen?
That did.
And when y'all are talking with the parents, what are y'all focusing on to make sure or to see if the child would be safe if returned home with those parents?
They're assessing to see what type of safety interventions can be put in place for the child.
And based on do they also talk about, drug use and all of that kind of stuff?
Yes, we're looking at past history, drug involvement for both parents, trying to see the protective capacity on each side, family support, things like that.
Okay. And in this case, were you also concerned with living arrangements for the parents if they had someplace to take the child?
Yes.
Now, in regards to the investigation, you indicated that the child didn't have symptoms at the beginning of the case, but did that change?
That changed quite rapidly.
And can you explain what happened?
So at the time of the intake, she was not showing withdrawal symptoms. However, within a matter of a day, she started showing withdrawal symptoms and had been transferred over to the neonatal NIC unit.
And during the course of your employment, have you learned about withdrawal symptoms for children?
Yes.
And based on that information, do you deem it's pretty critical for the babies to stay in the hospital?
Yes, during their treatment.
And all this time you go on doctor's recommendations as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, at some point in time, did some event happen that caused the department to formally remove the child?
Yes.
And what was that?
We were notified on October 11th of 2022 that Mr. Eaton and Ms. Thompson were at the hospital at the NICU trying to remove the baby. They did not believe that further medical attention was needed and that they were going to take her home.
And was it your understanding that this was against the hospital's recommendation?
That was. I actually spoke to medical staff myself.
Now, in regards to the removal, you previously had stated they talked about family support and family placements. Were you able to come up with any type of family placement to avoid removal at that time?
We were not able to. Both Ms. Thompson and Mr. Eaton were unwilling to cooperate with any type of safety intervention.
And due to all of those circumstances, the department decides to remove the child.
That is correct.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right, Ms. Mullinax.
No questions.
Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
Okay, all right. Can Ms. Zuniga be excused?
I have no objection.
Okay. Ms. Zuniga, thank you for your testimony. I'll remove you so you can go about your afternoon's business.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Wiggins, any other witnesses?
Judge, I'd like to recall Peyton Sims.
Okay. Wiggins?
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Sims, or Sim, I'm sorry, I always add an S to your last name. Ms. Sim, we had discussed previously in your testimony about the missed drug screens for Ms. Thompson towards the end of the case. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you had testified that she could neither confirm nor deny her use because she refused to go. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And that per policy, those are presumed positive for CPS.
Yes.
Now, we have admitted the results for the March 2024 drug screens. And have you had a chance to look at those?
Yes.
And what were they positive for?
The UA came back positive for methamphetamines levels 3,475, and the hair came back positive for amphetamines levels 6,840, and methamphetamines levels 40,821.
Now, based on that drug screen that we had, is it the department's position that we now can confirm that Ms. Thompson is unable to provide a safe environment due to her drug use?
Yes.
And again, do you believe it would be in the child's best interest for her rights to be terminated?
Yes.
And can you elaborate on that or say why?
Yes. So at this time, Candice continues to test positive for drug screens, and this drug use substantially impairs her ability to safely supervise and care for Kenna. Due to the dangerous behaviors associated with drug use, Candice continues to pose a serious threat to the safety and well-being of Kenna. And it is overall concerning to see that the reason for removal is still a continuing problem over a year later.
And in regards to Ms. Thompson, have you had communications with her after the reset in March of 2024?
Yes.
Did you ask her to drug screen for the department in April?
Yes.
Did she comply?
No.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Ms. Mullinex?
No questions.
Mr. Ingram?
Peyton, if the mother's parental rights are terminated, what is the department's long-term plan for Kenna?
At this time, we would like Kenna to be adopted.
Is she currently in an adoptive placement?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
Okay. Anyone else?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Sim, you said that she was asked to drug test in April. What year?
This year.
This was after the one that oh, okay. March. I'm sorry. March 4 was the other one.
Yes, sir. It was last Tuesday.
Okay. Thank you.
And I do have one other question for her.
Okay.
Ms. Sim, has that placement always been an adopted placement?
No.
When did they become an adopted placement?
I believe sometime at the beginning of this year.
Of 2024?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
Anyone else?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Wiggins, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor. We formally rest.
All right. Everyone else, rest and close. Ms. Mullinex, rest and close.
Rest and close.
Okay. Mr. Ingram, recommendation?
I believe it to be in the child's best interest that the mother's parental rights be terminated, placement to remain as is, department be named as permanent managing conservator.
Okay. And I assume you're also recommending that I make the father's interlocutory termination final order?
Yes, sir. I further believe that that would be in child's best interest for the interlocutory order terminating father's rights to be made final.
All right. Thank you. All right, then. We're running behind. I'm going to take some time to go back and look over some of these exhibits that we've talked about today that were admitted much earlier. It won't take me long to do that. And then I will rule by email to all parties involved. Okay. We will stand in recess on this case. I'll be back. Ms. Wiggins is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram's with us representing the child. Ms. Mullinex is with us representing the mother, Ms. Parrish, who is also with us. Mr. Madron, the father, is, as far as I can tell, is not in the waiting room.
Thank you, Judge. I call Ms. Martinez. Ms. Martinez, how are you currently employed?
I'm the permanency supervisor at St. Francis.
And where is the child currently placed?
She is placed in an RTC in the Houston area.
And how is she doing in that placement?
Well, so she's, as of right now, she's doing good, but she's had a few incidents of going AWOL, and just kind of being around the wrong crowds. But since the last time that she was recovered, we have not had any other incidents.
Okay. And in this case, this was a case where we're joint managing for the parent or with the parents. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And they had some behavioral issues with Alexis. And so therefore, they asked for CPS to place her in an RTC or some facility to help her.
Yes, ma'am.
And so it's fair to say since then, she still had some behavioral issues.
That's correct.
During the beginning of the case, who was the assigned worker on this case?
Valerie Sledge.
And has she worked with the parents in creating service plans for them?
Yes, ma'am.
And as the supervisor, have you approved those service plans?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you aware if Ms. Sledge has been able to go over that service plan with the mother, Sheila Parrish?
Yes, ma'am.
And has Ms. Parrish signed that plan?
Yes.
Sorry. And does it seem like Ms. Parrish understands what is being requested of her?
Yes, ma'am.
And what are those services that we're asking?
So for Ms. Parrish, of course, comply housing, and employment. And then Ms. Sledge asked her to complete individual counseling, actively participate and complete parenting classes. And then we would like for them to participate in some family counseling later on, just to kind of mend that relationship once we get closer to sending Alexis home.
Now, do you believe that those services asked of Ms. Parrish will help, strengthen her ability to be a good parent for Alexis and deal with her behavioral issues once she's returned to the home?
Yes, ma'am. But I think it really kind of depends on Alexis if she's open to the help.
Sure. But do you believe it would be helpful for Ms. Parrish to also do some counseling to help her deal with the issues in the home and everything that's going on?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in regards to the father in this case, Mr. Dodds, I believe is what he goes by now, has Ms. Sledge been able to go over his service plan with him?
No, ma'am.
Has he maintained contact with the department since the removal?
Not since it's been transferred to Ms. Sledge.
And so based on that, she has not been able to go over that plan or even talk to him about the plan. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in what services are we requesting from the father?
So for him, of course, complying with stable housing, employment, and then she did ask for a psychological individual counseling and to participate in parenting classes.
Okay. And the psychological evaluation is based off some statements that were made by the child regarding the father's mental health. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so therefore, we just want an independent evaluator to see, either confirm or deny if he has any issues that he needs to address.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you believe that these service plans are reasonably tailored to address the issues in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
And are we asking the judge to make them an order of the court?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Ms. Molinax?
Ms. Martinez, do you know when Ms. Sledge went over the service plan with my client, Ms. Parrish?
I don't know. I don't have an exact date.
Do you know if a copy of that service plan has been provided to Ms. Parrish?
As far as I know, yes.
Do you know if they have been filed?
I believe they were at the beginning of the month, but I'm not for sure. I can follow up.
If those haven't been filed, can you make sure those get filed so that we get copies of them?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that the child is in an RTC currently, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it your understanding, if you know, that there was a plan to have a home study done on an uncle?
Yes.
And is it, if you know, is it your understanding that after speaking to the uncle, the child ran away from placement?
That's correct.
And so is it still the intent of the department to look at this uncle as placement or no?
No, ma'am.
And so do you know, have you been given any other options for placement for the child?
No, ma'am, we have not.
And so at this point, would you agree with me that the plan is to continue her in that RTC until and unless something else comes up?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said she's doing well right now. When is the last time she absconded? If you know.
I don't know. Our system is down, so I'm not able to look at the temporary absence.
That's okay. It's been a couple times at least. Would you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any steps that can be taken to make sure that she doesn't abscond?
Well, they do have like a safety plan in place and trying to have more supervision on her, in hopes that it will keep her in placement.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
Ms. Wiggins, anything further from Ms. Martinez?
No, Your Honor, and we will get those filed and given over to Ms. Mullinex.
Okay. Anything else from the department?
No, we rest.
Okay. I do have a question. You said that the department and the parents were named joint managing conservators. I show that the department and mother were named joint managing conservators, but not father. Can someone?
Yes, I think I misspoke. I think I misspoke on that one because she had not had any contact with father in quite a while. We did ask that he become a possessory conservator.
Yeah, that's okay. That's what my notes indicated.
And Your Honor, I would agree with that assessment.
Okay. All right. Ms. Mullinex, did you have any witnesses?
No, Your Honor, rest.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ingham, recommendations?
Yes, sir. Continue the department as joint managing conservator with mom. Continue placement as is, although I will inform the court when Andy spoke with the placement that they said they had given notice on her. So I don't know if that still holds or not.
Okay, good to know.
Your Honor?
Yes. Yes. Somebody's trying to talk to me.
That was my client, but.
Yes. You wanted to say?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
On 4/20, Alexis ran away from the home again. She has a group of girls down there that are from Amarillo that she previously knew. And every time she's told no is when she runs. And when I talked to the home yesterday, they still put to move her because they cannot handle her outbursts the way she is.
Okay, you broke up there. I just heard something about, I don't know where I lost you. Amy, where did we lose?
She still runs. And when I talked to the home yesterday, then she cut out a little bit and she said to move her because they cannot handle her.
So what'd they tell you when you talked to him yesterday, Miss Parrish?
That they did turn in the 30-day notice to have her moved because she does encourage the other kids to run and she does run so much. She's ran 6 times since she's been in that placement.
Okay, thank you. Looks like the St. Francis will be looking for something a little more secure.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, then. I will continue the department and Miss Parrish as joint managing conservators of the child. I'll name Mr. Madrone temporary possessory conservator. I'll continue Alexis' current placement, knowing that we're going to have to find a new home for her within the next 30 days from whenever they put in the notice. I will order the services for each parent as contained in their service plan. I'll set the next hearing, the initial permanency hearing, for August 26th, 2024. That will be by Zoom like today's hearing, so parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket to see exactly what time we'll have that hearing. All right, Ms. Parrish, if you'd unmute again for just a minute, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ms. Parrish, I need to admonish you that the services contained in your service plan became a court order today. At a final hearing, if you haven't worked those services, your parental rights could be altered or terminated. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Martinez, if you'd unmute again, I have a couple of questions I forgot to ask you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you believe it would be contrary to the welfare of Alexis to be returned to either parent today?
Yes, Your Honor.
You believe it would be a threat to the physical safety and health of Alexis or someone else in the mother's home for Alexis to be returned to either parent today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, that will conclude this hearing. We're here on an adversary hearing. I'll be back here. Ms. Wiggins is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram was with us representing the child, and Mr. Hill is with us representing Ms. Stidham, who is also with us. I have a Lance Seeley in the waiting room. I show the father, Matthew Seeley. Could that be the same person?
Yes, he's Matthew Lance.
And Judge, we have filed a motion to confer. Cheyenne specifically asked to confer with you in chambers.
She just now joined the waiting room.
Okay, thank you.
No, Your Honor.
All right, I'll give it a minute. Maybe she tried to get in and fell off, so we'll give it just a minute to see if she comes back.
Judge, I'm happy to start if we want to do the hearing first and then.
Yeah, let's go ahead because we've added another hearing at 1 o'clock. So give me just a second to put some of this stuff away. Mr. Ingram, if she comes back on, did she want to sit in on the hearing or just talk to me?
Judge, I'm not sure, but I'm assuming under the circumstances that she's going to want to sit in on the hearing. There was one specific request that I'm aware of that she made us aware of that she wanted to make to you. So if she's unable to join, I can make that request on her behalf.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started if we need to. We can always break in the middle of the hearing. I can talk to her. So, all right, Ms. Wiggins, go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. I call Katie Larson. Thank you, Judge. Ms. Larson, how are you currently employed?
With the Department of Family and Protective Services.
Approximately April 12th of 2024, did you receive an intake regarding a child, Cheyenne?
Yeah, I guess she never dropped off. Cheyenne, this is Judge Graham. Can you hear me?
Hello?
You can hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
All right, let's just stop right here.
But you're cutting in and out.
I'm sorry, if you're texting the case manager, he's at the dentist. I've been texting him. And so
Perfect.
He's here. So I don't know what to do other than go forward without her.
Okay. Well, Mr. Ingram can make her wishes known to me when the hearing is over. So, okay, let's go ahead, Ms. Wiggins. Hang on, she's in the waiting room. Let's give it one more shot.
Yes, sir.
What Mr. Ingram told me Cheyenne was going to request when we were in the breakout room was that she go home, have a visit to go home to see her mother. This is a wrapper case, obviously, so I don't know if Cheyenne's going to try to get back in, but I assume that my understanding is they don't have a problem with mother going to see Cheyenne, but since it's a wrapper, I'm just going to put you in a breakout room with your client to see what her feelings would be.
Okay.
And Judge, the department is aware of this request, and we do have some objections to it,
Okay.
but we can get that in the testimony later.
Yeah, well, it may be a moot issue if mother's not agreeable to it. So, all right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear us? This is not going to work. We're going to have to move on. We'll just leave Cheyenne in so if she can hear us, so she can participate in the hearing. Okay. Do I need to visit, Mr. Hill? Do I need to visit with the lawyers about what that request was?
Judge, that'd probably be the best idea. Yes, please.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, we're all back. The attorneys have had a chance to talk in the breakout room. I don't know. I can't see if Cheyenne is still with us or not. But at any rate, we've got to move on. We've tried several times to initiate that contact with Cheyenne. For the record, I think Mr. Ingram announced this before. Cheyenne had one request that she wanted to go home to her mother's home for a visit. The attorneys have talked about it. Mr. Hill got to talk to his client. Court's not of the opinion that Cheyenne should go home for a visit. However, the court will allow mother and Cheyenne's brothers to go see her in Level Land if they choose to do so, and if Cheyenne chooses to accept them to come and see her in Level Land, court will allow it. If that happens, I'm going to order that be in a therapeutic setting so that Cheyenne's counselor be present while she meets with her brothers and mother. So that's one thing that we've been able to determine. So that having been said, we're going to leave Cheyenne in if she wants to listen. I'll ask her one more time at the end of the testimony if anything else she wants to tell me, but we've had no luck getting her to be able to hear us. So, all right, Ms. Wiggins, let's proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Larson, I believe, I don't quite remember where we are, but we got you, I think, testified about having an intake on Cheyenne.
Yes.
And at the time of your investigation, she was living in the home of her mother. Is that correct?
Yes.
And since January, well, let me back up. Did you have contact with the child's mother?
Yes, I did.
And did you talk to her kind of about the child's history of mental health issues?
Yes.
And did Miss is it Stidham? Stidham? I'll just say it really quickly, Stidham. Did she talk to you about interventions that she has tried for the child?
She did.
Okay. And had those interventions been successful?